Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session, this West African Peering Forum 2020 edition. I'm Jean-Baptiste Milogo, and I'm happy to welcome all of you here for joining. And I think we'll space here take a good session. And on behalf of Internet Society and also the West African Peering and Interconnection Forum program community, I would say welcome you again. I'm in charge of Internet development and technology at Internet Society. And I would like here to share with you the agenda of the session. Today, our main topic will be the impact of infrastructure's development on internet ecosystem in West Africa, and exactly on the contribution of new submarine cable and carrier neutral data. I would like to say also thank you to our sponsors. Main one, Flexo Optic, Meta, PEX, Datacenter, who support us during this session. We'll have during the session some polling part. Those polling part will permit us to interact with you, and it will permit also to collect your feedback on some key things. But before going on the session and welcome our panelists here, we have some rules we would like to share with you. Some housekeeping rule. Those would permit you to interact fairly with the community, and we request you to engage respectively when you want to talk and when you be writing. And we like also when you want to present yourself to use the format indicated here, your name and your country of origin. And we would like also to invite you to be familiar with the Internet Society Code of Conduct. So the link is here, and also you can find it in the chat session. The next one will be how to engage our community around this event. So on social media, you have some hashtag, Peering in Africa, IXP, and West African Peering Forum 2022. And during this session, we have also for you interpretation available. You have English and French supported. So, and you have also captioning available in English. And we think that those things will support you to follow easily. The next thing will be how to interact with us. So you have on your Zoom session, how to a place where you can put your question. So you have a question and a part. So try to do not put your question in the chat part. So you have a question and a, and our colleague will collect them, and after that we have opportunity to address them to the speakers. And next slide, please. To be able to provide these interpretation features, we have our sponsors here, Flexo Optic, and we want to recognize their support for this session. And today, I'm not alone to manage this session, but before going to that, we'd like to know a little bit more about you. And I will invite our support to put the first polling question, and those data will permit us to have more information about who is here today, and it can contribute and permit to have a good session. You have one more second, so. Thank you. So during this period, I will invite to go to next slide, and I will present you my co-moderator today. So please welcome here Samuel Trolle. I will give the opportunity to present himself and to talk a little bit about himself. And after that, I will present the key objective of the session before we go ahead. Samuel, floor for yours.
Bonjour à tous, je vais vous parler en français.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to talk to you in French so that French speakers don't feel that they're alone. I have been in the IXP world and for some time, and I'm very happy to be able to support the African community in West Africa. It's very enriching for me, this experience. It's a very interesting area of Africa because there are some very well-developed countries in terms of IXPs, and there are others that are far less successful. So it's really quite an interesting area to provide support to, and an event like this and several meetings like this allows people the opportunity to ask questions about what is useful. And we've been able to create some questions that are on what is interesting for you. And I work in France on the IXP in France, but I also set up an IXP in Lyon. So I understand the difficulties of creating an IXP in areas where one doesn't exist already. I'm not going to talk too long at the moment, but I just would like to share my experience of the project, of the technical knowledge that's required to do this, and the success that depends on each country having the infrastructure and data center that required. Neutral data centers are very important, but each country and each region, because IXPs can exist in one part of a country or another, or at a national level. It's up to you, your community, that will create the successful IXP. The successful recipe for success is not the same for every area. Well, it would be the same for every country in Africa. So that's what I wanted to say. I will hand back to Jean-Baptiste Milugo.
Short introduction from yourself, and I think you'll have time to discuss a little bit about all things you have highlighted here. So just let me present you some key objectives of this session. So the topic was the development of Austin facility, one of the session, but we talk about impact of infrastructure development on internet ecosystem in West Africa, contribution of submarine net cable, but also data center. As you know, in our region, there is many challenges. And during this session, we think that our main goal will be to understand the key driving factor of the development of sustainable hosting facility in the context of emerging market like us. I think Samuel talked about the challenge a little bit in our side. We'll also try to identify the key obstacle and the challenge, because we know that things can be different from one country to another one, from one region to another one. And we'll add also a part of data center impact on how to get them live. We'll have to understand also what can be the new value of a new submarine cable in our region, and the impact on the ecosystem in the future. And at the end, we all also want to identify the key stakeholders to be able to fight what we need to fight some challenge together, and find a way to find a solution. And we think that this second edition of West African Peering Forum seems to put all the ecosystem people together and come with some concrete recommendation. And we think that next year, when we come back here, we'll have some progress on ecosystem, on the interglobal internet development in the region. So, yeah, to be able to conduct this project, we have some sponsors. We want to thank them. The first one is Afrinic, the African registrar. We like also to thank again Flexo Optic for supporting us for the translation feature during this session. We like also to thank Main One, one of our sponsors long time, since long time, and Meta, as well as a sponsor, but also speaker, you will see after during this session. We want also to thank PAX, a data center provider in some area in Africa, and we'll also understand from them their experience during this session. The last will be, the next one will be Rack Center in terms of, let me say, fertility provider in the region, but they'll also share what they find when trying to do this activity in our region. Team Siuru, which are not here today, but a speaker, but they are supporting community in terms of security, and Work Online, which also support to deploy some device or some infrastructure in the region. So thanks to all those sponsors. I will give now the floor to Samuel to introduce our speakers and we'll develop the first part of the session, and we'll follow with the others after. So Samuel, floor for you, and just introduce our first speakers. Thanks.
Alors, aujourd'hui, on va avoir le plaisir d'avoir 4 panélistes.
So we're going to have 4 panelists today, and we're going to be benefiting from their experience. And we're going to begin with Magloire, who works at PAX Data Centers, and as a managing director, which it's mainly based in the Ivory Coast and Ghana, and he shares his time between both countries, and perhaps he can give us some perspective on how the differences between how these developments are carried out in different countries. He's been around for quite some time as a veteran, 20 years experience, and I'm sure he's got a lot to share with everyone. And then we have Obinna, who is from Rack Center, Nigeria, and he's going to explain what a neutral data center is, because it's not the same as just a data center. And he's worked in, he has created data centers in the past in Cloud Exchange West Africa as an operator in several countries, and for quite significant organizations, for example, Total Exploration Nigeria. And he's worked in Nigeria, in Ghana, Senegal, and the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Tanzania, and in Chad. So he has quite a varied experience to share with us today. Will I stop there with the introductions, or yes, I'll stop there. I'm going to carry on then, introducing the other members of the panel. I have the pleasure of presenting Yolandi Robinson, who's going to talk to us from South Africa, who's been working at Teraco marketing for some time and works on NAP Africa. And it's probably the largest one in Africa. NAP Africa is it's probably the largest IXP in Africa, and so her experience is vast, and it's been a very successful data center. And Yolandi has also worked in the peering community for some time. And she's also worked with Peering DB. If you don't know this Peering DB, it's important that you to get to know them. She's worked on several projects for EuroIX and in other regions of the world. So her experience is not just in South Africa. And finally, and she is, she's also works in driving local participation and training at the local level around IXPs, especially with Taraco Tech Days. And then finally, we have Ben Ryall, who works, not Facebook, but Meta. Everyone knows who that company is and what they do. There's no need to explain, but what it's interesting today, that they've already committed servers in Africa, and that's what's interesting today. So it's a content delivery network and a network for that has so to ensure that each user has the best experience, and you don't need to be an engineer to understand the importance of this. And Meta is taking part actively, an active role in the extension in Africa of cables, underwater cables across the Atlantic. And how is it possible to construct cables across oceans? Well, Ben is going to explain why it's important and why they're doing it, because and what this is going to bring to the community in Africa. So that's the introductions over for the four speakers, and I hope that I have been faithful to your experience and presented you in it correctly.
So thanks to all our panelists, and you have a strong experience, and I think you will share value thing with the community here. So I will start with Adumike, especially on the topic on data center impact on peering and interconnection network. So Adumike, we have understand that from what Samuel was saying that you have a big experience, but we'd like to know from you, what are the obstacles to the development of the data center in West Africa in particular? What do you want to say to the community? And if somewhere someone want to follow you and to develop something in this in another country. So.
All right, thank you, JB, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, Samuel, for the introduction. It's appreciated. We're all welcome. In terms of data center development, but before we get into that, before we talk about problems, let's discuss a little bit about some successes. There are some prominent data centers in the region, of course, starting from our own here, our rack center, the Carrier Neutral data center here, and a couple of other data centers, the MDXI and ADC that is new now, others. The thing is this: when we talk about where we play in the ecosystem and talk about peering, talk about interconnection, talk about collocation and all that, it is important to understand that this is a very serious economic driver that majority of the times are not taken very seriously about. Now, for example, we cannot continue to dwell on the problems, but we have to find a way of looking at those problems and adopting solutions to them. Us as data center, for example, at Rack Center, one of the major things we started doing was driving adoption of data centers in the first place. Major years ago, around 2012, 2013, 2014, when Rack Center has started operations from 2013, 2014, 2015, you realize that many people are still going ahead into building dual companies. That's what I call it. When you have a bank, who is supposed to do business in the financial sector, also running a parallel business, loads of IT infrastructure, providing power, providing all that stuff for their facility. It was not sustainable. So Rack Center and many other data centers in the region had to stand up and drive the adoption of co-location, which is one of the major things and major challenges we have in our region today. You see a situation where people are finding it difficult understanding the fact that shared infrastructure is actually the way to go. There is this cultural thing about being independent. It's a tradition here in the region here that everybody wants to be independent. You want to sit on your own. You don't trust the next person. You are not sure what the person is going to provide for you, which is great because when you think about it, it is a natural way to think. But is that sustainable? Does that business model make sense? It does not. Now, you think about things like how do we support the ecosystem to be able to actually grow in the first place? I've mentioned that adoption. They look at the interconnect ecosystem, look at the ISPs, look at the IXs, the Internet Exchange Points all across West Africa and all that stuff. These are facilities that have been put in place to help actually push contents, push traffic till the last mile to the end users. And these are things that have been put in place as well. And if you look at our region, that is also abysmally low. The likes of IXPN, the likes of NAP Africa from South Africa, the likes of Ghana IX, these guys are doing great work in actually getting these things across. But we still need more effort and more push to helping grow them. Us in Rack Center, one of the things we did at Rack Center was to ensure that all cross connects to IXPN is free till date. Since inception, I believe since inception till date, all cross connecting to IXPN is free. And as a carrier neutral data center, which basically means, I think someone mentioned something like that, which basically means a data center that has decided to stand out and be neutral in traffic management, in decision making, in business models other than data center. What we have done is to ensure that those infrastructure that enables the end users, our enterprise businesses, the members of the ecosystem to actually enjoy the services of colocation is provided at the most neutral level possible, which is why I mentioned earlier, providing support to IXPs through free cross connect, through joint marketing engagements, very important, extremely important.
Thanks a lot, Adumike. Passionate subject. There is no regulation issue. Maybe you are focused more on the community, but no regulation issue. And when you want to start?
Hello, JB.
Yeah.
Sorry, say that again.
So I was saying that to understand you, there is more need to collocate, to share, but there is no regulation issue. And when you start setting your data center project, no regulatory issue.
So JB, when you talk about regulatory issue, when you talk about those problems, for me, when you talk about regulatory issue, in the space where we play in, we've noticed that the more we rely on regulators, the more we rely on government. The issues are there, definitely. But for me, I try to take a positive approach because when you want to set up a data center in this region, and one of your major challenges, which is the regulatory issues, you may probably not do anything. Look at all the people that have successfully run data center businesses in the past. These are people that have taken the bull by the horn. They have moved ahead beyond those regulatory issues. Yes, the regulatory issues are there. You have issues like power. In West Africa, there's power nowhere. In Rack Center, we've been running on diesel since 2012 till date, and we have zero downtime, 100% uptime, even though we're a tier 3 data center. We had to create processes internally to run around the power problems we have in this region.
Good. Thank you very much, Adumike. Just let me give some few minutes to Maglo to tackle on the bit because you know that We know that there is a power issue, there is some regulatory issue, but in this situation, Maglo, what can be the sustainable business and financial or economic plan to have a sustainable data center in the region? I think Obinna have shared some experience and some challenges. So from your perspective, I know that PAX make some data center in Ghana, in Ivory Coast, and also in East Africa. So what is the key of success in this kind of situation?
Okay, thanks. We talk only about co-location data centers, and the nature of the business will help, try to assess what is the best ecosystem or the best business model for it. As pointed out by others, a co-location data center is basically an airport. You have traffic coming from various places, and it's a place where that traffic is offloaded for other parties to pick up, and eventually interested parties to sit and have the equipment hosted. It's literally like a port. You bring your data, you have it arrive at a safe place where you can have a sort of marketplace, and from there you can make your business move around. Business model wise, everything that goes along the building communities, to us anyway, is the way to go for co-location data centers. The challenge is to set up entities that will act as hubs, okay, to allow parties of different nature to interconnect, store the equipment if they have to, but mostly exchange traffic from one site to another. The organization I work for, PEX, has presence in East Africa, in Kenya, in West Africa, in Ghana, and in Cote d'Ivoire. And the idea behind and continue in that direction, and the idea, business-wise, is to build that mesh, to build that type of data center grid, where by communities and by regions, you aggregate the traffic and the interest of enterprises and carriers across the board in a specific area, and then you build those bridges. You build those bridges with the data centers, again, acting as harbors for equipment and for traffic. Economically, any business line ends in a marketplace. If you take a port, you take goods from Anvers and deliver those goods at the port of, Abidjan, and then you need a place where you have to, where you can collect those goods and offload them and send them and sell them to other parties. That's the model. That's the model of the future for data centers, and it can only work with a lot of capital in terms of what those that need. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Maglo. Very brilliant. So I think I will come back to my friend Adumike. So then I'll share with you some business approach. But what do you think about now? You see that some large group are investing in West Africa in terms of data center, and based on the challenge you are facing, and maybe you are trying to find a way, and based also on the ambition of our friend Maglo and PEX. So what do you think about those large groups who are investing and extend their expertise in the region? What will be the next step? Some merge, or what can be the way to do in this situation to support the sustainable internet development and economically in the region?
So for me, I think it's a great thing that those large groups or big companies are investing in our region. Look at Equinix, Digital Realty, Actis, and so on and so forth. It's a good thing for us as a business. That's direct foreign direct investment. But it should be a wake-up call for us also in the region as well. We have a lot of businesses and local investors who should also learn from them and start to also invest I see further investment in the region. I see more and more data centers being established in the region. We are yet to even get to our peak. And I think that local businesses, like I mentioned earlier, should also consider the learnings that comes from that and begin to do that. Look at what is happening in the software space, where people are able to, simple young people are able to think around leveraging on their knowledge to actually create businesses out of that. That is what is going to happen next. You would have data centers becoming the baseline for new businesses to develop in Africa or in West Africa. That means that more and more data centers will develop. Hyperscalers are coming into the region. Cloud is getting developed. Content is growing. CDNs are coming in. Cash facilities are being established in this region. What does that tell you? It tells you there is a reason to continue to invest in this region, and you would see more investments coming into the region.
Thank you, Adumike. I think just one last word from Magla before we see the next speaker. I think Samuel will introduce Yolandi. But before Yolandi, Magla, something to add on those facilities you are managing in the region, inland of large goods is coming. There is a challenge. There is a power challenge, and maybe there can be some regulatory challenge. What do you think? What is your melting thinking before we welcome Yolande and see what we can do with South Africa?
The more the merrier. The more the merrier. We need as many. Data center. The internet tissue in Africa across the board, apart from the north and the south of it, is still, there's still room to grow. To deliver a data center in a location, you need to have fiber, power, people, and capital. And the more you have interest from entities of various size into this business, the more you'll have people with skills that will emerge from those communities, the more you'll have resources that can be mobilized to, invest in infrastructures and so on and so forth. So it's a positive tendency that has to be welcomed, because it's when, from the investing perspective, lenders perceive risk in a more positive way when they see that you have organizations that are committing to address the market already. So it means that there's a story there that makes sense. And the more we have, we don't look at them as competitors. The more we have colleagues in this ecosystem, definitely the better. I'm trying to be short.
Okay, thank you, Magla. We'll come to you after Yolandi. So Samuel, I will give you a floor to welcome Yolandi, and also
So probably Yolandi lives in another world, because maybe she will just give us some figures about Terraco and about the amount of traffic that goes through NAP Africa, which is no longer counted in gigabits, but I think in terabits or something. She will tell us. So it can appear to be something very strange because there are some countries not so far that are counting in megabits. So it's a lot less. She will tell us, and maybe if you can have some word also to explain the importance of a community. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We are very excited to be here today. So to explain to you how Terraco started, let's take a step back. Because we are talking about subsea cables, in the early 2000s, we had SAT3. There wasn't a variety of subsea systems that we could choose from, which means you were set on SAT3, and that meant the internet was expensive. So that already is a problem, especially in, the modern world. Later on, in 2008, what happened in South Africa is that there was a deregulation in the telecommunications market, which totally changed everything, as you can imagine. This then presented the opportunity for Terraco to exist. So that is when we started. So we started in Cape Town, in a very small room with big dreams to be a neutral data center. Just after that, we had the CCOM cable that landed, as well as Easy and Wax. So what that meant was there was more variety. So we now had choices. We had redundancy. So with that, we then had the idea around NAP Africa, the Internet Exchange Point. As mentioned, NAP Africa currently, back then, again, we had big dreams, big plans. And now today we are the largest internet exchange in Africa, peaking at 2.5 terabits of traffic. And we are 6th largest globally. So it's quite an achievement. And I mean, this has been done by collaborating with other internet exchanges, especially from Europe. So people like Lynx, LONUP, AM6, to guide us, to tell us what they've learned, what they've seen, and to advise us on what we can then do. So, once there are many networks and choices, neutral data centers, many subsea cables, it assists large content and cloud to invest. So when NAP Africa started, we had a whole bunch of carriers and content providers connecting, which then in turn, got the attention of the eyeball networks. And from there, it just organically grew. What's different about us is that, we do not charge for the connectivity to NAP Africa. We believe that, connectivity is the way to go. We need to be interconnected. We need to exchange that traffic. We are also actually reaching out to the other African internet exchanges, to share our experiences and, advise and guide them on how to grow the internet exchange in their own country, because we do understand, as mentioned by the panelists, each country does have their own regulations, their own challenges that they need to overcome. So yeah, we're hoping to grow with those internet exchanges and also grow ourselves.
Yes, you've been doing a tremendous job. Just quite unbelievable. In fact, I've made a lot of statistics about peering and IXPs in Africa. Of course, to compare anything with anything, you have to remove Terraco and NAP Africa because you grab all the traffic and you are figuring such an amount of traffic. That great job anyway.
I think the most important thing to keep in mind is that, even putting Terraco aside and NAP Africa, every bit counts. And, even if you're still in the megabit space, in the gigabit space, in the terabit space, we also started there. And that is our hope, to get the internet exchanges in Africa to grow, to go to each level. And we want to be there on that journey with them. So we're hoping with the landing of the new cables, to Africa as well as Equiano, that it will change the way we connect in Africa and that we can build the traffic and the content in Africa.
Okay.
Yes. So GB, should we switch to Meta? And Ben?
Yeah, but before Meta, just one little question for Yolandi before Ben. Could I expect to have a new pop of NAP Africa somewhere in West Africa? And by when?
Oh my goodness, you can't ask me that. Well, so at the moment, NAP Africa is only based in South Africa. We are solely focused on that. I don't think right now there are any plans to expand, and therefore that is why we would like to rather not partner but collaborate with the established internet exchanges in other countries to help them grow to be a mini NAP Africa within their own countries.
Okay, thank you very much, Yolandi. So we will move now to our friend Ben from Meta. So welcome again, Ben, and thanks for your time to be being there. So we learn from Yolan, from Maglar, and also from Obinna that many things grow from the data center, the collaboration between many stakeholders. And so in the past, we are seeing Meta like CDN cache provider or content provider. So, but we see now, and since some years, that you are now in building or deploying submarine cable. So can you tell us a little bit about your project?
Sure, thank you. It's great to be here. It's great to be part of this panel for 2022 and looking forward to hopefully doing this in person in 2023. So great question. Obviously, everyone's super interested in investments around subsea, and obviously the To Africa cable is an open access consortium-led cable. And for those that don't know, it's going around the east and west side of Africa with multiple landings in multiple countries. It's going to be a really important development and infrastructure build for the internet ecosystem. Clearly, we're going to be using it, but as I mentioned, it's an open access and it's a consortium-led cable. So, there's many parties involved and many, opportunities for people to leverage this infrastructure. Andy mentioned this a moment ago. There are other cables landed in the region as well. And there's also the existing cable systems in place. But, To Africa is going to bring a significant amount of capacity to these markets. If we think about kind of the positive effect on the ecosystem, we've seen a lot of impacts now. Number of markets are getting new investments in carrier neutral data centers. These are something that are really key for our edge infrastructure. And as we look to deploy that, any infrastructure we deploy, and we've got examples of this in multiple markets across Africa. We're looking to put in open access, open to all network operators and data centers, and making sure that we can leverage the infrastructure we build there. Then, complementing that is internet exchanges, the ability to serve our traffic and bring that as close to people using our products as possible is really key. And internet exchanges form a key part of that strategy. And, these investments then bring, other developments in these ecosystems. For example, metro connectivity to make it affordable to get between different data centers. And it kind of improves the reliability and resilience as well in these markets. And we're finding now in a lot of markets, the conversation is evolving from the first time we're peering with someone to actually now how we build peering to operate under failure, making sure our products continue to work in the way we want them to when failures happen. And this investment continues coming. The carrier neutral data centers are key parts of that. I guess one question that might come up is what happens about landlocked countries. And really, that's something we're thinking about, how to develop our infrastructure into those regions. And we already have a in-network caching program that we have deployed all across Africa. And we're really understanding how next to handle our builds there.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Thanks for the data. So, but maybe one question before we collect more questions maybe from the community. What can be the next for the lockland country? Because we know that we have data center, maybe in the country where they have access to submarine cable for most of them, and your landing station will be there probably exactly. But what can be the next to be able to cover the lockland country? Is it what kind of cooperation you can highlight here? Because we know that other partners are working there, but what can be the map if to be able to drive all those capacity you are bringing on the submarine side to the lockline country and across all the region? What can be the plan?
So the plan really, and I guess it's, everybody in the ecosystem needs to consider this. It's going to be making the investment to actually cross the borders, and whether that means network operators in different countries partnering together larger builds, or cooperation between network operators to build to borders. But it's really, and it's something we're considering as we look at our production build-out plans, which routes and which paths we should be either investing in or making sure that other operators are investing in where there's a business case for them. So I guess really it's investment and identifying where that investment's needed.
Thanks a lot, Ben. So maybe before we go and check the result of the polling question, Samuel, maybe you can summarize the discussion we carried till now, and just to refresh to all the community before we collect some question and coming back.
Yes. So we've seen that. In fact, I will tell you at the very beginning when we've been preparing this forum. Oh, maybe I should switch to French. Will be better. Quand on a commencé
When we started to prepare the forum, we asked ourselves questions based on statistics. We wondered how many countries of West Africa have an IXP or neutral data centers, and not all of them did. We can see now that there is IXP or one IXP or a data center. Even in Ghana and Nigeria, there are several IXPs there that can compete. There are a few hundred members and local traffic. So the value of the traffic is retained in the locality, and you have to do that to retain the traffic, because traffic means companies, means creations, means data centers, means employment. Creating a data center is not easy, but it's doable. The questions, the significant questions were asked. We've seen it. What can we do for landlocked countries that do not have access to the sea? I would remind you that the largest IXP is in Germany, which is not strictly landlocked, but and Burkina Faso is a very good example. There is a landlocked IXP there, and it works very well. So maybe we could move on to the questions.
I don't know if the polling question have been sorted, the result of the first polling question, just to have an overview. Have many persons coming from provider, content provider. So thank you for your participation. We'll propose now maybe to collect a question from all of you. So remind to put your question on the questionnaire and plus in the Zoom platform, and we will collect them and start sharing. So the first one, so doesn't understand clearly. It's Mohammed Awal Al Hassan. So he would like to know if there is any link that can add must understand more. So it seems to not clear for me. So maybe we'll move to the next one.
Yeah, yes. Je peux expliquer un peu. Oui,
Yes.
oui.
Yes, there are lots of resources available. There's hours and hours of film that you can watch, presentations on each IXP. You can go on the Euro IX website. There are hours of video presentations. There have been books written on peering and data centers. And yeah, there is ISOC as well, which is has a presence all over the world, of course, not just in Africa. There's training, there's events. So there's no worry about about being able to obtain information. And one of the things that's unusual about peering is that is because there's competition between different agents, because the actors, participants actually train others, even if they are competitors. So you should never be afraid to knock on the door of an IXP, because they're always happy to respond and help you.
The second question, I think it's more for Obinna and Magloire. The question is in France. So exists still the model economic?
Is there an economic model that can be used? Is there a business model that for neutral data center development that might be useful in a landlocked country? Is there anything specific to the success of data centers in landlocked countries? Who would like to take this question? Obinna or Magloire?
The key issue is going to be connectivity. For a data center to success in a landlocked country, it has to find a way to gather the maximum, in my view anyway, to gather the maximum density of connectivity possible, access to all the cables that touch the country, and start from there. That's what will create a connectivity runway and help them serve the parties that are interested in co-locating with them locally. So what starts with local connectivity, lots of it.
Okay. Thank you, Magloire. So yeah, Samuel.
Peut-être qu'on peut rajouter que.
I'd just like to add that there are initiatives in Africa for connecting countries across land, not just across oceans. And there's already Orange that they're doing this. It's a French company, but it really Orange Senegal, who in that area of Africa. And I'm talking about the Joliba network, which connects Senegal to the Ivory Coast via the Burkina Faso. So there are connections over land in landlocked areas that don't have access to the sea. And these are connections, these are high broadband connections. Yes, they exist. And it's important to mention that.
Some initiative in the region. The next question, I think it's most for Ben. So the question is, what are the traffic level required for Meta to deploy public caching? So I think the question is from someone in Niger. So, Ben, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's one we understandably get asked a lot. We don't have a hard and fast traffic level we're looking for when we deploy one of our FNAs, one of our appliances and internet exchange. We really look to work with the IX operator to understand what their IX looks like, and by that I mean where it is, is there a carrier neutral data center, what networks are connected, and, you know, trying to work out how we can kind of support growing that IX. So if you're working or work for or developing an IX, then happy to talk to you. You know, I can share my email address and happy to follow up.
Thank you, Ben. So, so for this person, Ben is available to follow up. So I'm based on your needs. The next question, thank you, it's from Shanghai. So I guess my question, what is the financial viability of an IXP in the absence of regulation? What will attract ISP to peers? So I don't know if one of the panelists want to try. So if no, I think I can try to reply. Maybe Ben, what can attract IXP what is the financial viability of an IXP in absence of regulation?
So I'm definitely not an expert in regulation, and there's many better people in our organization who could talk to that point. Yeah. But generally, and I'm sure Yolandi would echo some of this, there's many benefits of network operators connecting to an internet exchange point and peer traffic off. You know, a lot of the motivations from me at Meta and me and the team when we work on this, we care about resilience and we care about the performance of our products. And so by peering with networks and internet exchanges, it allows us to, you know, be slightly closer to the edge and slightly closer to the people using our products. They're spinning that around for network operators. You know, they can exchange traffic locally with either other networks in country, you know, maybe other access providers or other networks, or, you know, where the larger CDNs like Meta or, you know, Google or Netflix or others are present, they can get that traffic locally. You know, that can, in some cases, lead to cost savings. For example, you wouldn't need to use your upstream transit at that point, and you could get that traffic locally. Yolandi, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, it's exactly that, Ben. By connecting to your local IXP, you then have that direct relationship with the networks that you are peering with, which makes it simple to, you know, troubleshoot. And also, as we mentioned, you know, or like Samuel mentioned, in the community, you should feel free to knock on someone's door to say, hey, I have a problem with this, or could you assist with, you know, this problem? So I think you would be supporting the IXP, you would be attracting more, you know, content providers and clouds, because obviously they look at the demand in the country. So by having that established IXP, it shows them how much traffic potential there is.
Thank you, Ben and Yolandi, for your answer. I think it's very clear. The next one, I think, will be for maybe Obinna. So what are the major regulatory challenges affecting the development of data center? It's a little bit relative to IXP, but I think we can focus more on discussion on what are the major regulatory issues you are facing.
Okay. Okay. First of all, when you talk about regulation, you talk about the political will. There are some countries in our region that don't even have basic operational licenses for people to operate IXPs. You know, forget about the likes of Nigeria and Ghana, who are relatively developed to an extent within our emerging market. But there are some other countries that don't have licenses, approval processes that allow people to establish IXPs. And then you talk about having the political will to actually allow businesses to independently run their business, you know, allowing investors to be able to repatriate their funds to their countries, economic impact. There's a whole lot of regulatory issues that affect the issue, but these are just a few. But the fact, like I said earlier, a proper research, and I think Samuel also mentioned that there are a lot of resources out there that can actually educate people on those issues pertaining to the industry.
Thanks a lot, Obinna, sorry, Oga, for your answer. I think the next one will be, I don't know, for Ben. will CLS operation operation will be given to local operator? And if so, what extent Meta can drive the atmosphere to lower down the price of cross connect and last mile to data center? Can I
can attempt?
So I think
Sure.
basically you will be involved some local operator on your CLS management in the country, and if so, what value add you can add to downgrade the price of cross connect and last mile to data center?
Sure, so I can talk to this a bit. So I touched on it earlier. The Two Africa cable is consortium led. So whilst we play a part of that, there's a number of different people and a number of different operators in the consortium. So the decisions don't solely lie with Meta, and they don't solely lie with me, because it's actually a different team that works on this. What we are doing though, and I kind of mentioned this, it's open access. So the methodology is to put the infrastructure in open access facilities. Carrier neutral data centers. One of my colleagues spends a lot of time working with and partnering with on different operators in different markets to make sure these CNCs exist. And it's good for the cable, but that's good for the ecosystem. And these CNCs are going to be in such a way where the cross connect pricing should be market rate and reasonable.
Thanks a lot, Ben. So the next question. So I think I would say the question is I will merge two questions. What is the data center? And the other one is, what is the difference between peering and IXP? I think I could say it's what is the difference between peering and IP transit? And I think, yeah, I don't know, Yolandi, maybe you can try to drive this.
So peering is the exchange of traffic between two networks where no money is exchanged, where IP transit is where you pay a carrier to provide you with internet access. So if you think about it, your carrier would be connected to the local IXP. So what they are doing is they are getting the local content from that IXP and providing it to your network, but then charging their own fees for that. Where with peering, you have a direct relationship with that network at the IXP, which means, and you are not paying for that traffic between the two networks. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that helps. And a few words, and one was requesting, what is the data center?
What is a data
what
center?
What do you call data center?
It's a computer room. I know the mature people in the community call it a computer room.
Maybe I can highlight a little bit for you. Is it let me say, in the old world, you have some machine rooms, data room. A data room is a data center, because sometimes I think there is some confusion. So Obinna, you are laughing, so maybe you can try to.
It's an interesting question, actually.
What we can call data center, what we can call computer room, to be able to make the difference. When can I try start talking that I have a data center, I have a neutral data center,
yes,
and I have a carrier neutral, and I have my old computer system room. So
okay,
a little clarification, because it's important.
All right. So it's a very important question, actually. So a data center, in the concept of the conversation we're having today, is a secured room or a secured building, a secured facility where your IT equipment, or rather your major IT equipment, are kept for proper operational excellence. So that means that anything you consider a computer equipment, be it a server or storage or whatever it is that actually drives your computational capability as a business, is supposed to be kept in a location. It could be on-premise in your own facility, in your company, or in a different environment outside of your location. That's when we talk about co-location in a specialized environment called data center co-located environment. So either you keep it in your facility or you keep it somewhere else to allow someone else to manage the facility for you. Both could be termed data center. But in the concept of this conversation, we are referring to enterprise data center, or data center that are specially built to provide security, to provide support, to provide connectivity, to provide every delicate requirement that your equipment needs to function optimally.
Thank you very much. So one question, how is a neutral data center business if connectivity is free? How do data center make an income for sustainability? I think, I don't know if Yolandi want to highlight. So it means that if your cross connect is free, where your income is coming from, maybe explain a little bit what is free, what is not free. And I think it's open to all of you, Magloire, Obinna, and Yolandi.
So in terms of Terraco/NAP Africa, so yes, we do not charge for the cross connect to NAP Africa. So meaning that connection is free. But where the investment is coming from, where the funding is coming from, is from the co-location side in Terraco. So meaning the bigger networks, even the smaller networks, the ISPs that are investing, that is taking up a cabinet within our facility. So that is where we would get the money from. And I believe it would be the same for any data center. If you can find a data center where the cross connects are free, that would be fantastic. But I think the core income is the space that you take up in the data center. I don't know if Obinna and Maglo would like to say something about that. Are your cross connects free?
I wish. Anyways, Yolandi, you are very correct. That's basically it. It's important to understand that when we talk about like what you have with NAP Africa and the Terraco, and also here in Rack Center with the IXPN, our cross connect to IXPN is free. Remember, IXPNs are usually everybody's effort into contributing to the community, to helping the community grow interconnect-wise. So as a data center,
exactly.
We are a carrier neutral data center because we, in Rack Center specifically, we are not a network provider, we are not an ISP or an eyeball or something. We are not, but we said we have to contribute to the community, helping the interconnect community grow. Therefore, if you are in our facility, your cross connect to the IXPN, which is the major IXP in Nigeria as of today, should be free as our contribution to the ecosystem. It's not that the entire cross connect in the facility is free.
Exactly.
Thank you, Adumike. Magloire, some word to add to that?
Nothing to add. I believe that Yolandi and Adumike said it all. Yeah, nothing to add to that.
Okay, so the next one is a comment from Mathieu Panosa. So thanks, Mathieu. He's saying that there is an existing example of carrier-neutral data centers succeeding in Lockland country, the case of Raxio in Uganda. So this means that it's possible in some country like Burkina to succeed this kind of thing. So we just need to check and learn from others. And so the next question, I think, within the region, it's from Seyin Olorunizola, sorry for your name. So it's from Seyin. Within the region, we seem to have more of connectivity infrastructure in few cities. Most of new investments still focus on the few cities. What can we do to extend the benefits of the investment to other cities in the region. How can we have data center and connectivity investment in other cities? So I think it's so for, let me say, for Obinna, most of you, maybe Yolandi, what can do?
Okay.
Apart of big cities in our area, so how we can extend what we are doing, what we have succeeded in, let me say, Lagos, Accra, and Abidjan.
Okay, so definitely big investors will always focus on the big city because they need to recoup their investment quickly. But I think that us locally in the region, we have to start, we are the first to consider going to those cities. So let's take an example. If you look at in Nigeria, for example, where I'm very conversant with, apart from Lagos, you have Port Harcourt, you have Kaduna. People could collaborate to build smaller modular data centers in these regions. It doesn't have to be giant data centers. You could start with smaller modular data centers in these cities and help start building the interconnect community in those regions. It's until the big investors see that there is an effort in those regions and they see the capacity and the business feasibility of going to those regions before they could come. And majority of the time, big investors don't go beyond the big cities. So someone have to start opening up their eyes to the viability of the businesses in those other cities. So it's us that would start first, go outside of the big city, start a proof of concept that a small data center is able to thrive, therefore a big one will thrive. You could start with building a modular data center, like I said, a few racks here, bring in the local service providers in there. I am sure the IXPs will be happy to come and put their facility there once you give them maybe a couple of spaces or rack spaces to put their facility there. And then here you go, others would come in and say, hey, look, they are doing it there. We can also invest. The big cities started like that. It can also happen in other cities.
Thanks, Obinna. Maybe Samuel, we can follow from question number 18 and so
sorry, 18 or 15? Gael Hernandez had another one.
Now is, I think, 12, 13. Asma Awad.
Is there any standard policy for data centers operation and how can be global data centers? Is there any standard policy? Yes, and I'm very sure that Obinna will be happy to respond to these questions. There are a lot of, not regulation, but good manners to do. Obinna?
Yes, there are a lot of standard policies for good data centers. First of all, you have to realize when someone gives you when you want to build a data center, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Availability, reliability. So around these two concepts, a lot of processes have been built. You could start with studying the uptime tier certification processes. You can start with the TIA certification processes, and you can also think about some other local data regulation processes, policies within your own local country as well. So these are all things, policies that can also guide you when you're making the decision to go into the data center business.
And maybe another question, which is from Oluwazum. It's a question about money. How are you in fact surviving when you mentioned that you are running permanently on diesel due to the Russian crisis and the price that have increased so much? How can you survive financially?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, really. Again, it's hard, it's difficult, but that is the business. The good thing is that we have the best of hands in what we do here at Datacenter. We have the best of the people here, and our customers are fantastic as well. So everybody knows across the world what power is. So one of the things we've done from day one is to actually have a perfect billing method, which separates power from your actual co-location. There are two separate entities here at Datacenter. Unlike what you get in other data centers where it's actually modeled up, so you don't know what exactly you're paying for. So here we have a very transparent payment system that are separating power from the actual co-location, from the cross-connect. So now that the oil prices are high, we already put in place processes from day one that make sure that we have enough backup of diesel in our facility. We have about 170,000 liters of diesel at every point in time, and we make sure we have at minimum 2 months of diesel supply within the facility or ready to be delivered to the facility as the case may be. So we are not at a place where we have that immediate shock when things like this happen, and it has helped us over the years to preempt what the power situation could be across the world. But notwithstanding, we've always advised everyone else, and we're also thinking as there are a lot of other alternative sources of energy that we're also considering, but it's all about thoughts that we're putting together. And as soon as those decisions are made, we can consider otherwise. But if you understand the Nigerian and the West African energy market, we can't but remain with diesel fuel, because that's the only way we can trust our delivery to our clients.
I think I agree with you, Obinna. I mean, here in South Africa, we are also looking at alternative energy sources. So we are looking at solar. So you can imagine it's a big investment, but as you said, that's the business. We need to keep the internet going.
So thank you, Yolandi, Obinna. Samuel, next question.
Yeah. So,
we have 10 minutes maybe to try to cover all of them.
We have a question of Gaël Hernandez, who's very well known. Hello, bonjour, Gaël. Who asked, in your experience, can exchange points help to reduce the cost of the last mile, which are still extremely high? Can you give some examples? Maybe I will take a part of the answer. I would say that yes, IXPs and local data centers, neutral data center help the competition to grow. And as you have more competition, guess what? Prices are going a little bit down. But maybe one of you, dear panelists, want to add something about can a data center or an IXP help to reduce the price of the last mile?
Yolandi?
Well, I believe so, because you know, you as mentioned before, you now have that direct relationship with the network you are connecting to. So if you look in the long term, you know, what you would be able to get from the internet exchange versus what you will be paying if you go via a last mile. Sometimes it's the same, but most of the times you will be saving on costs. I don't know, Obinna, if you guys are seeing the same there in Nigeria.
Yeah, basically the same thing. But what happens is that when you think about it, Yolandi already mentioned the difference between peering and transit. If you paid attention to that, when you cut off the cost of transit, which is basically what takes you to the internet, that's a cost reduction on the side of the ISP. And we expect that the eyeball network should also reflect those cost drops to the actual end user at the end of the day. But remember, the internet as it is today, there's a lot of services you consume. So our ability to bring in as much traffic into the region, localize most of the content we consume in the region. Ben is here with Meta, we bring in Microsoft, we bring in Google, we bring in all these guys to sit locally within the region. That would greatly reduce our traffic that goes into the public internet, reduce IP transit, and then all these things can be consumed locally, and then cost is ultimately reduced. It's a work in progress.
Thank you, Lars. Sam, next question.
Yes, just to add a small point, Gail was willing to ask, was wondering if we can have some examples to confirm how Terra is. And yes, for instance, in Lyon now, so my original city, we know that thanks to the competition, the prices to interconnect data centers have reduced so low as 100 euros per month for 10 gigs, which is $100. So it's even cheaper than some cross connects in some data center. So to reach one data center to another data center, it will only cost you 100 euros. So Yeah, so I think the IXPs can help the competition and so reduce the prices. Another question, is it optimal or is it a good idea for governments to build data centers, or should we leave the private sector take charge of it? Are there any case of public-private partnerships that have been successful and which we could take some inspiration from?
Okay, is it a good idea for government to build a data center? It's a good idea for anybody to build a data center, but building a data center is different from the operations of a data center. So from experience in this region, it's always a good idea to have independent entities run data centers for the sake of trust. So when you take trust into consideration, they make sense. Government can build and bring in private entities to actually run the data centers. There are examples in West Africa. I'm not sure, we could research, but I know that Botswana government at some point had a government-owned data center. I'm not sure where was the state of the data center at the moment, but I know that that had happened at some point in Botswana, and it's pretty much possible to go into a public-private partnership to build a data center. It's all about having a clear-cut business model that goes beyond any negative impact of a government policy.
Thank you. We have 4 minutes to collect the last question. I think we can close now the queue, but we have some questions already collected, so we will try to reply to them. So the first one is is it any value add to have a regional IXP in Africa, in West Africa? So I do think that it is value add to have a regional IXP. Is there any project, ongoing project? So I don't know if Yolandi can emphasize and say there is yeah, Yolandi, maybe Obinna or Maglo. What do you think about?
Well, that's a good question. I think Obinna would be a bit more knowledgeable about what's happening on that side of the world, on that side of the continent. I am just entering into Africa to understand how and what would be beneficial, you know, in terms of the regions. So I mean, Obinna, what would you say? Do you think regional IXPs would be beneficial, or should it be country-based? What would your opinion be? I think it really depends on the market, as well as the cost.
Yeah, I agree with you, Yolandi. It all depends on the business model. But I believe that the regional IXP can work. I really, really believe it can work, but it's something that deserves very careful planning. And I also know that IXP in Nigeria was appointed the regional IXP for West Africa at some point.
Okay.
And yeah. And a lot of work went into making sure that that works. Mohammed Rudman, the CEO, did a great work in making sure that that works. How well they are connected with other IXPs in the region, yet I'm not so sure because I don't work with IXPN, but I know that it was actually appointed to be the regional IX for West Africa at some point.
I think the biggest challenge we need to consider is, how do I connect? How do I get to the regional IXP?
Exactly, because that also brings into capacity cost as well. We have to, the IP transit cost that we talked about earlier now comes into the conversation. But again, like I say, it all depends on the partnership and the business model. There are cable operators within the parts or within West African parts. So it's all about who do you collaborate with, what kind of peering agreements do you go into with your partners as well. So if you go into a partnership with a transit operator or a cable operator or a carrier that is able to actually give you a cost-effective capacity between yourself and other IX within the region, of course, it is very possible. It's been done in Europe, remember, DKIX, Asteroids, they all have IXs connected all across Europe and America and all that. So it's all about considering the business model. It could be done.
Yeah, I agree. I think it depends on the number of peer you will bring on your exchange point, and also if there is some kind of connectivity to reach others. I think it can be, but it depends on the what is your business plan, your plan of development. So we have 3 questions. So I think maybe it will be challenging to cover all of them, but apologize for those questions we were not able to cover. So I would like to thank all panelists and also my co-moderator Samuel for your time here and your answer to all of questions you have get time to follow. So I think there is several lists. So the remaining question, we can carry them on the regional mailing list and try answer to them. So I will invite now, just before we go to the hand, if technical team can share the last polling question, just to have your feedback about the session and how we can try to improve the next time. So take time to reply to this polling question. It will support us to improve and also to find a way to meet next year, maybe in face-to-face meeting or in hybrid meeting. And so thanks for your time. And so we'll also take time to thank our sponsors, if we can have the audience slide in place. So thanks to speakers, to panelists, to all of you for your participation. It was a great session. And I will say thank you to our sponsors, Afrinic, FlexOptic, Main One, Meta. Thanks a lot, Ben, for your contribution. Pax with Magla, thanks for your participation. Rack Center, and thanks Obinna for your participation, and the others, Team Suru and Workaland. So thanks to all of you, and see you next time. And it was thanks a lot. So the next thing we want to invite you to join us. It is the African Peering and Interconnection Forum coming in Kigali, in Rwanda. So a big one for this regional session. So feel free to register and to join us in Kigali, and we will continue the remaining question and also bring together some new idea and how to build African peering and interconnection ecosystem, and at the end of the day, bring better internet in our community. So thank you, and so have a good day. So.
Recording stopped.